All right, welcome back to Rarest Photos. I hope you're having a good morning. I recorded this last night. I had a long day on Monday and didn't get around to doing much fun like this is. So I did want to start off Tuesday morning for everybody with some Elvis. So we're going to read a little bit from here and have some conversation. So thank you to all you who have subscribed lately and those that have been subscribers for years. I apologize in advance if I end up yawning. I'm tired. I apologize for that. Thank you for those that have super thanks. Y'all been kind. If you wonder where to find all of these books that I'm reading and different topics, there is playlists. Just click on Rare Elvis Photos, and you'll find playlists, and you'll see the subscriber series. Melissa was our first subscriber. Then we had Sarah Angel, who is a subscriber, but she really is not on the subscriber series because she's an author as well. I've had a few of you reach out, and I promise you, I will reach out to you again soon to set up a time for you to come on the channel and be guests of the channel. I want to give y'all voice to be heard with your love for Elvis. All right, so where do we leave off? We left off with Elvis. Kind of Elvis haunting Lisa in a sense through Michael Jackson with Michael's prescription use. It just it was difficult for her. And Michael, he had his own pressures, his own stresses, his own history, his story of when he was a child and growing up and the pressures of fame, but more the self-worth, I think, for Michael. And so they divorced, and then Riley said that they still went over to Neverland, and she thought maybe they might still be hooking up. So this is Lisa. All right, we went back and forth for years. He wanted me to have his children so badly, and I didn't want to. I knew he ultimately wanted to be the only caretaker of the children. Michael wanted to control things. He didn't want a mother influence or any other influence, in fact. And I figured that Michael would have me have the children and then dump me, get out of the picture. I could read him like a clock. I understood everything, and I knew everything about him because all we did was bare our souls to one another, said Lisa. I knew his nature, and he was very controlling and calculating. One time he was working and he called me. During the conversation, I said, "You're like a snake. I don't know what you're going to crawl out from under." Michael said, "Oh, that's great. I call home and talk to my wife, and she tells me I'm a snake." Well, I said, "Yeah, you are." And this is Riley. In 1997, my mom flew us all to South Africa. Now, going back there, Michael Jackson, Lisa said this, and I think we've seen a couple spots. There's one on an award show where he's talked a little lower. He didn't have that, "Really, thank you very much. Now I can buy myself another glove." Sort of a high voice. So I'm sure that when he and Lisa talked, he probably didn't talk that high. That's just a voice in my, in my head that I've always thought, as Michael Jackson. Riley says in 97, my mom flew us all to South Africa, where we watched Michael perform for the last time. We would sit at the side of the stage while he performed, and he would bring me and some of the other children on stage during Heal the World. That's interesting. Did y'all know that? I didn't know that Riley was on stage with Michael Jackson. Don't even think about that, right? You think, oh yeah, they're married and had a relationship, but you just don't think about that. On the way to the show, our private plane had almost gone down. We made an emergency landing in a village in the middle of nowhere. The near disaster felt like a bad omen to my mom. After South Africa, my mom realized that she needed to break off whatever this relationship had become. It wasn't good for her, and she cut Michael out of her life. Years later, Michael called my mom. She said he didn't sound sober. He said, "You were right. Everyone around wants to kill me." And it was their last conversation. My mom was in London writing a record when Michael died. My mom later told Oprah that Michael often said he was afraid of ending up like her father. He was forever asking my mom about when Elvis died, how it happened, where, why. Michael said, "I feel like I'm going to end up the same way." Now, at Michael's funeral, My mother sat with his coffin for hours. Oh my gosh, poor Lisa. Lisa sat there with her daddy, sat there by the stairs while she watched all the fans go by. And here we are, a couple decades later. It's a couple decades later or 10 years later? It's gotta be a couple decades later. She had sat with his coffin for hours after everyone left, just like she had with her father. She told Oprah that she didn't think that she could make peace. That it was more like she wanted to apologize for not being around. My mom told me that she communicated with Micheal through her dreams for months after he died. What do y'all think about that? There's a lot of folks that do feel like they can communicate with spirits. A lot of times it does come in their dreams, in their sleep, in their subconscious. If not, don't you think it would drive you just batty if you had somebody coming in your ear or your face, or you saw people? What I know about this life is that there's a lot that we don't know. There's way more that we don't know about this life and our spirits, and on where we come from and where we go, and what the meaning of life is. It's a search. Elvis was a searcher. So she felt, Riley said that my mom told me that she communicated with Micheal through her dreams for months after he died. Here's the next little section. Picture there of Riley and Lisa. Hopefully that you can see that. This is Riley. She says, as I mentioned in the preface, when my mother sat for the interviews that formed the basis of this book, she wasn't in a place where she could recount all the great fun times in her life. She focused mostly on the trauma. And accordingly, there was much less material on the tapes about the years between her divorce from Michael Jackson and her marriage to Michael Lockwood, which was a gap of about 10 years. Which she created a magical life for me and my brother, and was surrounded by a large group of devoted friends. These years constitute some of the happiest times of her life, but they were also years in which the scale of her life ballooned to almost a breaking point. Fortunately, my mother told me everything about her life, which again could sometimes feel like a curse for me as her daughter. But I was happy when she did. But I was happy that she did when I was working on this book. So much of the material in this chapter is my recollection of what she told me. All right. In Florida, we lived in an area called Bel Air. There was a sort of swampy southern feeling to the place, with fireflies and alligators, and the trees covered in moss. We lived in a big old house. To the right of the front door, there is a bedroom. So you walk to the door, look to the right, and I'm peeking through the door. It's dark in the room. All the shades are down. Even though it's daytime, I'm watching my mother shushing my brother. He's on her shoulder. Shh. And I remember the rhythm of it, the shh, 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 shh. 3 notes repeated over and over again. Shh, shh, shh. I remember now that this was my first understanding of the depth of her maternal instincts. My mother had the strongest such instincts of anyone I've ever met. Eventually, it would be clear to me that should anyone ever hurt Ben or me, she'd probably track them down for as long as it would take, like in a Western. This was a presence you could feel in her, and it wasn't small. It was terrifying. Something else that's terrifying. I only have fond memories of Ben. But my mom once told me that shortly after he was born, I said, I wish all the babies in the world would, you know what I'm saying? Go away, go bye-bye. Clearly, this was my way of saying that I felt upset about this baby. I had an instinct that Ben was the love of my mom's life. My brother and I would often talk about how magical our childhoods were. Maybe it was just the time and the place. Maybe we were just lucky to find ourselves in some kind of golden moment. What was certain was that we had extraordinary parents who wanted us to have joyful childhoods. My mom got us a nanny each. I had Heidi. He was a teenager, but Ben had Uant. He was from South Africa and in her 60s. Her real name was Suzanne, but he could not pronounce that. Uant was so great for him. They'd play in the garden all day, watering plants and getting muddy. Now, when Ben learned to talk, he developed a bit of a South African accent from being with Uant all the time. Ben had curly little ringlets down to his butt, and a lot of people thought he was a girl. He loved being in nature, just a little nature boy, and he was sweet, soft, and gentle, like an old soul. Now, just as Elvis had with his mother, my mom had with Elvis, my brother and my mom had a kind of, I can't live without you relationship. They shared a very deep soul bond. This is Lisa. Ben was very similar to his grandfather. Very, very, very. And in every way. He even looked like him. Ben was so much like him, it scared me. I didn't want to tell him because I thought it was too much to put on a kid. We were very close. He'd tell me everything. Ben and I had the same relationship that my father and his mother had. It was a generational flipping cycle. Gladys loved my dad so much that she drank herself to death worrying about him. And then my dad had his demons and acted out on them. I have everything in me that wants to do the same thing. And then my son's got the same genetic makeup. I feel like he's more genetically me than Danny. Ben didn't stand an effing chance. That's where I'm going to leave it. So let's talk about a couple things here. Lisa shares that Gladys drank herself to death worrying about him. So, do we think that there's really a lot of truth in that? She heard it from somewhere. She wasn't there. She wasn't there when Gladys was alive. Did she hear it from Gladys's family? I don't think Elvis would have said anything about it, right? To a 9-year-old. Did she hear it from the Smiths, which is Gladys's family? Did she hear from Billy, perhaps? Or did she hear it from any of those family members? Or did she trust in biographies? She obviously thought there's something to it. Gladys loved my dad so much that she drank herself to death worrying about him. And then my dad had his demons and acted out on them. I have everything in me that wants to do the same. And then my son's got the same genetic makeup. I feel like he's more genetically me than Danny. Ben didn't stand a chance. If it's true, let's just say it is true. We know Gladys didn't want Elvis to be away from her. She could stand like a normal mother. She can stand a son being away and living in the same town. But when he started going on the road in the early 50s, it worried her to death. She thought he was going to get in a car accident or plane crash or something bad's going to happen. Somebody's going to unalive him on the road. If she did drink, guess what? She would certainly overdrink. We know in that family, there's a predisposition to maybe doing too much. And then everybody has tolerances. I mean, heck, we didn't know nothing about tolerances until, the 90s or 2000s or 2010s? No, but that wasn't really a term. I built a tolerance up, so I had to take more and more and more until, it was over. That's, what do you think? I mean, let me know what you think about Gladys. Tell me about Gladys. Tell me what your thoughts are, what you've done research-wise, maybe what you've read, what you believe, what you feel, what you don't want to believe, and what you truly believe. Because that was a very pivotal moment in Elvis's life. Gladys wasn't doing nothing on purpose, if she was doing that at all. But that certainly would set the tone to a child who lost his little brother at birth, that his life wasn't going to last very long either, because his mom didn't last very long. And who was closest to Elvis? His mom. So, you see what I'm saying? Let me know what you think, and I apologize for being sleepy. I didn't yawn, which is good. Like my last video, but you'll be watching this in the morning, so hopefully y'all driving to work and listening to this, maybe hopefully I don't sound like I'm going to make you go to sleep. Stay awake when you're driving. All right, TCBT. I'll see you until next time. This is Rare Elvis Photos. Enjoy y'all very much. Be kind and love yourself. And do something good today for yourself or this week. So, go get some concert tickets. Get a comedy show ticket. Do something. Go out. And if you can't go out, do something a little different. Break up the monotony. Sit by different windows. Ask somebody to take you for a walk, or if you're in a chair or something like that. I know there's a lot of different folks out there in a lot of different situations, and I see you all, okay? I want to hear your stories. I want to know who I'm talking to. All right, till next time, Rare Elvis Photos.